Hello everyone. Super quick stream before I go for a bike ride. We've been talking about Waves plugins lately, right? We've been talking about them and we've been talking about a couple gems that probably have gone forgotten for some people. And I had the chance to ask these to some important folks in the business with whom I was just doing other types of work and stuff that is pretty boring. But I just dropped it into a Zoom call and I said, you know what is kind of coming up? Like the Waves plugins are kind of, we had been talking about them and I thought about upgrading some of the stuff that I hadn't updated because of WUP and all that stuff, right? And I said, like, do you have any like gems or things that are hidden? Because a lot of those plugins do more than we've been advertising sometimes. You know, there might be things that are very nice within those contexts, like some output knob or a filter or a function that is easy to sort of overlook. Even an output knob, for example, which is something we're gonna see. So I have two plugins that you might have overlooked, not as a whole, not like as a plugin, but whose functions might be easy to overlook. They might have more than meets the eye or things that you wouldn't consider the reason why you instantiate that plugin. Okay, I only had one coffee, so this is gonna be hard. So you remember this loop here, the drums. Right, we had been writing this in a previous stream and stuff, and I left it exactly as it is. And then we have strings. This is the Hans Zimmer strings library we had. I loaded the short version of the strings, the violins, which sounds like this. Right? We could write something, but I actually probably am going to just play it because the two plugins I have, I'm kind of guilty. I should have used them more. And I kind of like to get a feel for the velocities when I'm playing them because except for one, they are very low latency or zero latency, so you can actually play stuff. One of these, the first one I would like to talk about is the Waves Cramer tape. This is very old and it's kind of nice. This plugin here has around a millisecond and change of delay. I'm sorry if I'm not reading messages because I don't have my phone here, so I can't read the chat. But don't worry about it. So this plugin does tape emulation, right? We like that. We know that it does that, blah, blah, blah. But there's one thing I've learned that is the slap that you can set at very, very short delay times and then fiddle with in terms of percentage. So I'm just gonna play something. I don't know, just maybe this line was kind of nice, was kind of beefy, right? Something like this. And I'm gonna do this without and with. So hear it without. It has, let's explore what it has. So you don't need to set the low pass because this doesn't work for the slap. I think we should check it, but I've never felt this is quite important. So maybe, okay, but I'm not running any, I'm not monitoring the input like this. I'm not doing any tape stuff pretty much. And the levels are pretty mild. There's no noise. What you do is you set a delay time for this guy here. Well, this is kind of not working, right? I'm getting second thoughts. Hold on. Okay, now we hear it. Does it work in Monitor Repro? I was pretty sure. Oh, okay. We're there. I was just, the settings where they are. I had second thoughts because I just updated these and I was pretty sure it works just without the tape stuff, which is kind of, you know, I don't want that. But you can find, I usually keep it at like 50%, and you can find a spot that has a right beefier kind of sound for your strings. So one thing that you could do is start with like 1 milliseconds at 50%, and this sounds incredibly nice. Just, it creates a halo of like a ghost on the strings. Here you can hear it. I think something was bugged though, because you know, it's pretty easy. So 50% 1 milliseconds is flanging. That's too much. So I'm gonna go off. You hear it? It cleans the low mids up. It just has that thing. So I'm gonna record something and then we're gonna play over it. Let me think about what I could play. All right, let's try this. Click. Then we do retrospective, that, and I don't have my MIDI latency set up correctly for the session. So what I have to do is this, move this guy here, because that's what I've played. All right, that's pretty good. We can keep it. Let's grid it. Let's go here. Awesome. We don't quantize it, we don't need to. Not all the time. I actually quantize more than you would think. Okay, I'm gonna solo it, and then we can hear this thing. Have you heard how many colors I passed through, right? So even one at like 10, 3, 5% is really nice for cleaning strings. It works on brass as well. It resets the imaging and it can be super useful. The other thing, let me try a setting that I like, and then we're gonna keep it because it's kind of mysterious. This. The other thing I really like is the VEQ4. I would like to spend 2 words on why this video is possible. It happens because of my patrons. I have a Patreon in which I teach songwriting, scoring for video games and writing soundtracks, being creative, exploring hardware synthesizers, analog outboard, virtual instruments, sample libraries, mixing and mastering. We talk about recording. There's a lot of cool people in there. Check my Patreon out if you would like to support me. It really means a lot to me and it makes these videos and the future ones possible. So thank you very much. And this, I had completely forgotten. They do 3 and 4 and comp, but the 4 to me is also as an EQ is really, really cool. But we're not using it as an EQ here. We're just using it for the output because the output knob is not linear. it introduces harmonics that change. It's insane. These, most plugins, you have input knobs that kind of drive things around, or you have drive knobs. Then you have output knobs which are just suitable for trimming. Not these ones. These, they actually have a sound. The problem is that to get these kind of sound, you are cranking 8 decibels. I think I set it to 8, which is kind of nice. You can even go overboard. It sounds really nice. Once you get to plus 18, I think the stuff that is close to 0 dBFS almost has harmonics that are on par with the, the fundamental, which is really nice. What you cannot do is trim the plugin after you've done that output stuff. That's a problem, because you're gonna have 8 dBs more. So what you're tempted to do is you go to the fader and you drop it down. I would advise against it. The fader is something else once the sound is done. So what I've done is I've just instantiated mixer delay, which is then minus 8 dBs. And so these two things are going together, okay? So I'm gonna disable the Cramer tape just so we can focus on the second thing. And then I'm gonna instantiate the EQ and the mixer delay together, okay? And we should gain 8 but reduce 8, so we should stay there. Listen to what the strings do. It's another level of complexity. I really like this. They're more direct, more pinpointed. They're less flangy. It's nice. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try the same stuff on the drums. Let me reinstantiate these two so I don't make mistakes here. And I'm gonna try and just instantiate them, but then I'm gonna actually push it. Let's see where this meter actually wants to go. I think if you pin the 0, it still kind of sounds nice. Again, there's no EQ. And one thing you should do is disable this EQ button here, because it preserves the harmonics even if you have EQ off, but it doesn't low pass your sound, which is might be something you want. But if you want to just keep the flat signal with just the harmonics, go disable these, and then it doesn't matter. Everything goes on off, right? So let's try this, but let's try and go more than plus 8. There's something about the transients that just becomes, because of the saturation, cooler. And can you do it with other plugins? Yeah, of course you can do it with other plugins, but few people know the output knob here is so colored. And that was an issue back then, because you would tend to pump stuff up and then your gain stage would be off because of what you were doing. Oftentimes you would boost frequencies, and so I would find myself using the output to go minus. It's actually much better to go plus, and it would be awesome to have a final trim here. The waves never put it in. So let's keep the drums as they are and just close this, and let's put the strings back again on. What I want to try and do, I want to show you last but not least, is just the filters of this thing. If I'm playing this, which is at plus 8, that's fine, with no filters, right? You can do amazing stuff here. Just hear these out. It's a movie thing right there, right there. Hear how scooped that is. It's it's so broken, but it's nice. And this is because the filters are very musical. So you can do 270 and do that. But there's more. If you do this on the violins, and you don't want to add cellos, you don't want to add basses as well, but you need something to go low mids. The 1081, whatever, this thing, 84, I don't know where they modeled these about. The 81, 84, they're different things. But anyway, it's a 4-band Nevish kind of thing. So what you can do is, I love the 330 on strings. We're on to a strings thing. So 330. Hear that once you go off. There's that halo of stuff, right? And what you can do is just carb it up from the HP, even if you're pumping 330 or you're doing 50, 50, something like that. Right? Then we do this. High passing string sections, but beefing them up in the low mids is beautiful, and you can try and play that to cut and boost, to filter and boost at the same time. It's a good thing to remember. How many times have you heard that on TV series? I would say there's one huge TV series that has done plenty of seasons. It's got dragons, it's got a lot of blood and vivid scenes. There, it's very famous. That has actually the main theme is done with the low string section. Now, why would you want to carb so many lows? Well, if you are outside, that's my personal take on it, so that's a word of a madman. But if you are outside, it's a fact that bass frequencies don't build up that well. You might have a lot of bass from, flying over an aircraft, but usually you get hit by any bass you're generating if there's a subwoofer stuff, but there's just no walls and no containment factor of the lows. So usually you don't get the same vibe of being in a room and broadcasting a lot of lows. And when you start reducing lows, highs as well, but for the lows, the loss of that beefier orchestral factor, which is typical of a closed, chamber, or when they built a theater for orchestras, is associated to me with an open landscape. I don't know why or how, but it's just like that. When I get a lack of bass in sense of build up, even a musical build up, a very tailored build up, such as the one you find in theaters, in huge concert halls that were built specifically knowing what the frequencies are of low bass, of low brass, and all that stuff. You get a feeling of being at a summer concert, something very open, very wide, where there's no room for low frequencies to bounce back at you, especially. So this works more sometimes just the lows being cut, which we know it happens, the highs being cut, which we know it happens because, air just cuts a lot of high frequency content with distance because those frequencies are weak. They don't have that much energy. So they tend to get sort of dampened by air itself. But we lose the detail of the orchestra and the articulations of the strings and the bows and stuff. So low frequencies actually work surprisingly well to give you that sense of wasteland, of landscape. That's why I love a lot of synths that I have, like the Prophets especially. They do have low pass, but they also have high pass filters. And it's a huge part of sound design for me. It's not just, I use a high pass because it just filters the lows and allows me to have bass. It's a sound thing. So even if you go low and then you carb a lot of highs, See what happens? You don't quite get there because you're now losing the detail of the strings. But if you keep the highs and carve the lows, right? And if you go with the off, like complete bypass, hear how silky smooth that is. The 330 is insane. If you have cellos, which we could try and unload, cellos here, longs. All right, zero tweaking, just playing. This was with this. I'm gonna try and do the 56 thing. It's haunting, right? Why is that haunting? Because this is a typical person playing in a room. And it's somehow a resonance that we're used to feel when a room that is next to the room the person's playing is actually reverberating lows or resonating lows. So now this is a completely different setting. If you're scoring something and it is inside and is haunting and this is what you do. You don't, and this, to me, this is psychoacoustic, so it really works. If you do this, like what we've done before, it's still too much. So we would need to go maybe way low here. Right, maybe even lower. .56 will work. There's a point in which you reduce the lows and it gets that wasteland, but the instrument's still playing. If I were to do this, because math tells me that highs are getting carved, it sounds beautiful because it's cello, so 3.9, it doesn't really have a lot of that. But to me, it kind of feels nice to do that. But let's go back to the house thing. It's still a section, it's still got plenty of reverb, so it's kind of big, but that factor of the resonance for the lows is just like, it's just like an abandoned, you know, small house or apartment, like top floor, you know, something like, you know, thriller movies, that stuff. That's about it. I don't want to say anything else. This is two things. The Cramer tape, it came out in the talk, like that delay thing, the trick. Lots of people have used it, even in famous things, and the VEQ4. For now, this is the two things. There's actually a couple more, but I'm gonna end it here because I wanna go bike. It's weekend, so have a good time. If you have these, I bought these when it was a console collection. So it was API, Neve, and SSL. It was the first money I got for a record, I bought Waves plugins. All of them. Like the money I got, I invested in plugins. I still think I did the right choice because I needed the tools, but the price at which you can get these today, it's insane. So thank you very much. See you soon. I'm gonna have a good bike ride. Have a nice weekend. Ciao.